She should have known something was wrong the moment her date asked to take a scenic detour through the woods. Emily Carter shifted uncomfortably in the passenger seat of Daniel's silver SUV as the paved highway gave way to a dirt road riddled with potholes. The GPS on her phone had long stopped tracking their route, and a no-signal message blinked mockingly from the screen. She tilted it upward, hoping to catch even a single bar of service. Nothing. She glanced at Daniel. "Where are we going?" she asked, her tone light but clipped. Daniel kept his eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel. "There's this overlook," he said, voice smooth, secluded, quiet. "Thought you'd like it." He smiled. That same damn charming smile from his profile photos, the one that made her swipe right when she'd promised herself she wouldn't download another dating app after Matt. But this wasn't Matt. Daniel had been normal funny, even. They'd exchanged voice notes, laughed over bad first date stories, and when he asked to meet for dinner, she said yes. And dinner had been fine, nice, even. The conversation flowed. No red flags. No weird comments. She'd actually relaxed, let her guard down a little. Then he offered to drive her home. She hesitated, then agreed. Big mistake. Now they were heading somewhere she hadn't agreed to, somewhere isolated. Every tree they passed felt like another nail in the coffin of her trust. Emily forced a casual laugh. This overlook. It wouldn't happen to be in a horror movie setting, would it? Daniel chuckled. "Come on, Em. Don't tell me you're one of those paranoid types." Paranoid. The word stuck to her like gum on a shoe. That she folded her arms. "I just don't remember agreeing to any backwoods adventure. Maybe you should take me home." The smile slipped off his face. "We're almost there." There was steel beneath the words. Not threatening yet, but enough to set off sirens. In her mind, Emily's heart thudded in her chest. She turned back to her phone, trying to hide the tremor in her hands. Still, no signal. The trees outside blurred together in a wall of darkness. Her windows showed nothing but shadows and the occasional flicker of the moonlight through leaves. She needed to think fast. "Mind if I roll down the window?" she asked, her voice softer this time. "It's kinda warm in here." He nodded, silent. The window slid down halfway. Cool air slapped her skin. Emily reached up as if to fix her hair, subtly tugging the silver hoop from her left earlobe. She let it slip from her fingers, watching it fall into the weeds below as they bumped along. A tiny breadcrumb. Daniel didn't notice. Minutes later, the SUV slowed and pulled into a small clearing. A rundown cabin stood crookedly at the center, surrounded by tall grass and thick forest. One of the windows was boarded up. The other was cracked, jagged glass catching the moonlight like broken teeth. The place reeked of forgotten things. Daniel turned off the engine. "There it is," he said, gesturing to the cabin like a magician unveiling his grand trick. Emily didn't move. "This isn't an overlook." He turned toward, her eyes unreadable. "It's private. No one comes here. We can talk. Maybe drink something. Relax." "No," she said, sharp now. "Take me home." A beat. Then his hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. "I said relax." The words weren't loud, but they were ice. Emily yanked her arm back, fumbling for the door handle. She nearly fell out of the car, hitting the ground hard, knees scraping against gravel. She got up fast, bolting toward the tree lawn, but he was faster. He tackled her near the edge of the clearing. Her scream was muffled as his hand clamped over her mouth. He dragged her, kicking and twisting, back toward the cabin. "You want to do this the hard way," he hissed in her ear. "Fine." Inside the cabin, it smelled of mildew and rotting wood. A single lantern flickered on the table. Shadows danced along the splintered walls. Emily was shoved into a chair. Before she could lunge for the door, he was already there, blocking the exit. She scanned the room. Rope, zip ties, a tarp folded in the corner. The kind of details that tell you everything without needing a single explanation. "You've done this before," she said, breathless. Daniel didn't answer. He just watched her, chest heaving slightly. Emily sat perfectly still, her mind spinning. Panic threatened to take over, but she forced it down. She couldn't cry, couldn't beg. That's what he'd expect. Instead, she slouched slightly, feigned submission, eyes lowered. "Okay," she whispered. "You win. Just don't hurt me." He approached, slow, reaching to tie her arms. He leaned in close. That's when she struck. Emily's hand shot up and grabbed the edge of the nearby lantern. She smashed it into his face. Glass shattered. he screamed, staggering back. She ran out the cabin, into the trees, barefoot. Branches whipped her face. Stones cut her feet. But she didn't stop. Behind her, he shouted her name. His voice echoed through the woods. Emily ducked behind a fallen log, pressed herself to the ground, listening. Her breath came in ragged gasps. She didn't dare move. His footsteps crunched nearby. Then silence. A minute passed. Then two. She crawled through the underbrush, carefully, quietly. At the edge of the woods, she found a shallow ditch and slipped into it, burying herself under leaves and mud. Her fingers curled into the earth. Her heart slammed like a drum in her throat. She waited and waited. Eventually, she heard the sound of Daniel moving back toward the cabin, muttering curses into the dark. Emily allowed herself a breath, just one. The worst was over. Or so she thought. The snap of a twig behind her made her flinch. She twisted around, ready to bolt. A man stood there, silhouetted by moonlight. But it wasn't Daniel. This one was older, gaunt face, cold, curious eyes. He held up her phone. "This, yours?" he asked softly. Emily's blood turned to ice. She staggered back, struggling to find her voice. "Who are you?" He smiled, and it wasn't kind. "Let's just say, Daniel and I work together." Her mouth went dry. He stepped forward. "We didn't expect you to be this difficult. Usually, they're easier. But you've got fire." Emily turned and ran again, but he was faster than Daniel. He tackled her effortlessly, pinning her to the ground with practiced ease. She thrashed, clawed at his face, screamed. "No one's going to hear you," he said calmly, pressing a knee into her back. "That's why we picked this place." She kicked, screamed louder, but the night swallowed her cries whole. He grabbed her arms, yanked her upright, and dragged her through the trees, back toward the cabin. Emily's mind reeled. There were two of them, maybe more. She wasn't just in trouble now. She was caught in something far more calculated than a one-off date gone wrong. As they reached the clearing, she looked at the ground. Her earring was still there, half buried in the gravel. A tiny hope, a breadcrumb. But would anyone find it in time? Emily's knees scraped against the gravel as the second man hauled her back toward the cabin. Blood dripped from a gash on her cheek. Her shirt was torn, the forest having clawed at her just as much as the man who now had her in a vice grip. He didn't speak as they crossed the threshold. Inside, Daniel had regained his composure. A rag was pressed to the side of his face, a cut glistening below his left eye. His rage was barely contained, vibrating through the air like static. "Told you she was a problem," the older man said, pushing Emily into the same chair she'd fled from minutes earlier. Daniel's lip curled. "I liked her." Emily flinched as he stepped forward. He crouched in front of her, hands bloody from picking glass out of his face. "That hurt," he murmured. "Good," she spat. Daniel slapped her hard across the face. It wasn't a warning, it was a message. "Enough," the other man said. "We're already behind schedule." Emily's eyes snapped toward him. Schedule. He ignored her and instead turned to Daniel. "You want to keep playing hero? Fine. But we're not wasting another night. Pack the gear. We stream at 4. Daniel hesitated, then nodded and walked to the back room. Emily watched the second man closely. He moved methodically, placing duct tape, checking the lighting, adjusting the camera. He was calm, detached, like he was preparing for surgery, not a snuff film. "You don't have to do this," she said, voice cracking. He didn't respond. "What do you get out of this?" She tried again, louder. "Money, power." Still nothing. Then, softly, he said, "Control." Emily stared at him, repulsed. "You're sick." He turned to face her, expression unreadable. "You'd be surprised how many people pay to watch women die." A chill sliced through her. Daniel returned with a duffel bag, tossing it onto the floor. It hit with a metallic clunk. The older man unzipped it. Inside, cameras, cables, handcuffs, syringes, and rolls of plastic sheeting. It was a kit, one designed for death. Emily fought the rising panic clawing at her throat. "You're not the first," the older man said, as if reading her mind. "And you won't be the last," Daniel snorted. "Not if she keeps this up. She already cost us an hour." The man glanced at his watch. "Then we work faster. Lights on at 3. Stream at 4. Clean up by 5. Same plan." Daniel hesitated. "What about the files?" "I'll handle that." Emily's fingers dug into the armrest. She looked past Daniel to the boarded-up window. There was a crack of open glass just large enough to maybe fit a hand through. Her eyes flicked to the bag. A knife handle was barely visible under some cables. She had to stall. Get them off balance, Daniel, she said suddenly. He looked at her. You said you liked me. He blinked, surprised. I did. Emily leaned forward slightly. Then why do this? Why let him decide? Daniel's jaw clenched. You ran. I was scared, she said. Because of him. The older man rolled his eyes. Don't waste time. She's manipulating you. Emily ignored him. We could leave. Just us. You don't have to do this. Daniel looked between them. And for a moment, just one brief moment, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Doubt, conflict, maybe regret. Then the older man stepped forward and backhanded her. The world tilted. Blood filled her mouth. Don't talk to him, he hissed. Daniel flinched but didn't speak. Emily fell back against the chair. Dazed, she'd almost had him. Almost. The cabin's clock ticked louder than before. Time was draining like blood from an open wound. Emily's wrists were tied. Her ankles, too. A camera lens stared back at her, already powered on. She couldn't stop shaking, but she wouldn't cry. Not in front of them. I'm going to make coffee, Daniel said, voice tight. The older man didn't stop him. When the back door shut, behind Daniel, Emily turned her head slightly. You're not going to get away with this, she said. He smirked. They all say that. My friends know where I am. Your phone was wiped clean. GPS disabled. Profile deleted. You're already a ghost. Emily swallowed. Then why not kill me now? He moved closer, crouching down, because suffering sells. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, an ID card. He dropped it in her lap. It was a photo of another woman, same age, similar hair, same dating app watermark in the corner. Her name, Samantha Keller. Emily stared at it. She fought too, he said. Didn't make a difference. In the kitchen, Daniel poured coffee into a chipped mug. His hands trembled. He stared at his reflection in the window. There was still blood on his face. Emily's voice echoed in his head. Why let him decide? He closed his eyes, tried to block it out. It didn't work. The cabin used to be a hunting lodge. His father brought him here to kill deer. Now he used it to hunt something else. Daniel glanced at the back wall, at the door leading to the basement. He opened it. There were stairs, and beneath those stairs a trapdoor. Emily counted the sounds. A kettle, footsteps, a door, then silence. Worked the rope at her wrists against the splintered chair, grinding her skin raw. Every second mattered. Then the door opened again. But it wasn't Daniel. The older man returned, rolling up his sleeves. Time to prep, he said. He grabbed her by the arm, dragging her to the center of the plastic-lined floor. Emily dug her heels in, twisting. Don't, she gasped. He yanked harder. Shut up. Her foot caught on the duffel bag. The knife. She collapsed onto the floor and reached back. He caught her arm before her fingers could close around it. Nice try. He kicked the bag across the room, then shoved her down. Daniel returned. Steam rising from the mug. He froze when he saw her on the ground. What the hell are you doing? He asked. She tried to grab the knife. Daniel's hand tightened on the mug. She's desperate, the man continued. We'll restrain her better before we go live. Daniel stepped forward. Maybe we don't go live. The man's head snapped up. What? Daniel's voice wavered. Maybe. We film it but we don't broadcast it. The man stood slowly. You're getting soft again. No, Daniel said. We don't know who's watching. What if they track the IP? What if? Are you scared? Daniel didn't answer. The man walked over, slowly, until they were nose to nose. I gave you a purpose, a system. You want to throw that away because one girl cried pretty enough. Daniel didn't move. Fine, the man said coldly. We'll do it my way. He turned back to Emily, and that's when Daniel snapped. He smashed the coffee mug across the back of the man's head. The older man dropped, stunned. Emily screamed. Daniel knelt beside her, cutting her restraints. Run, he hissed. She didn't hesitate. She sprinted for the door, barefoot and bleeding. But just as she reached it, a gunshot rang out. She froze. Behind her, Daniel collapsed to the floor, blood spilling from his chest. The older man stood behind him, staggering, holding a small pistol. Emily stared, horror-struck. The man lifted the gun toward her. Nowhere left to run. He growled. She turned and fled out the back door instead. The forest swallowed her again. But this time, the pain in her legs slowed her. She didn't care. She kept running. Branches tore at her arms, the cold bit at her lungs. She stumbled down a slope and fell, hitting rock. Her head cracked against the ground. Stars burst behind her eyes. She rolled into a ravine and landed beside a corpse. It was a woman, decomposed, blonde, hair still clinging to the scalp, a bracelet on her wrist. Samantha Keller. Emily gagged. Then something caught her eye. Another body, male, deputy's uniform, shot through the chest. His radio was cracked, but maybe not useless. Emily crawled toward it, her vision tunneling. She pressed the button. Hello, hello, is anyone there? She, CROAKED. Static. Then unit responding. Repeat identify. Emily sobbed. This is Emily Carter, she rasped. I'm trapped. He's going to kill. The radio cut out. She tried again. Please, he shot a deputy. I need help. I need a voice. Where are you? She looked around. I don't know. A cabin, a ravine. Please send someone. Footsteps above. She froze. The man stood at the ridge, flashlight scanning the trees. Emily buried herself in leaves. He passed over her, then paused and began walking down the slope. Leaves pressed against Emily's face as she held her breath beneath a loose blanket of forest debris. Her heart pounded like a drumbeat in her skull, louder than the crunch of footsteps descending the ridge. He was coming, slowly, deliberately, no shouting, no panic, just confidence, the terrifying calm of someone who'd hunted before. Emily, the man called out, his voice casual and quiet. You're not making this easier on yourself. A light swept across the ravine floor, flickering past the twisted corpses of Samantha Keller and the deputy. Emily didn't move. The smell of decay clung to her skin like a second layer. The man walked within 10 feet of her, the beam of his flashlight slicing through the darkness just inches from her head. Asterisk. She stayed still. The radio in the deputy's jacket crackled again, loud, abrupt. The man spun. Emily burst from the leaves, scrambling toward the tree line on shaking legs. Behind her, a shot. Bach exploded beside her face. She didn't stop. Her lungs burned. Her ankle twisted with every step, but she pushed forward deeper into the woods, away from the bodies, away from the cabin. She didn't know where she was going anymore, only that she had to keep moving. Somewhere behind her, he was tracking her, not fast, not reckless, patient. She stumbled over roots and branches until she saw it, a narrow path through the brush leading downhill, a dirt trail, barely visible. She followed it blindly, ducking under limbs, thorns cutting her arms. Then, a headlights, faint, flickering. She slowed, breath hitching. It was another building, smaller than the cabin, maybe a shed. Maybe. She crept closer. The door was ajar. Inside, candlelight flickered on the cracked walls. A battery-powered lantern hummed on a table. There were sleeping bags on the ground, old food wrappers, a bucket of murky water, and huddled in the corner two women. Emily froze. One had a bruised face and tangled hair, maybe 19. The other looked older, blood crusted on her sleeve, her eyes vacant with shock. They looked at Emily like she was a ghost. You, the younger one rasped. You're not him. No, Emily whispered. I'm not. She rushed in, shutting the door behind her and locking the rusted latch. My name is Emily. I was with Daniel. I escaped the cabin. The older woman said nothing. The younger girl crawled toward her. Did you see a cop? Emily nodded. He's dead. The girl's eyes welled. His name was Keller. He was my dad. Emily blinked. Samantha. The photo, the bracelet, the news article she'd seen months ago. You're her, she said. You're Samantha Keller. The girl nodded slowly. The shed felt like it might collapse under the weight of what Emily had just discovered. Samantha hadn't been killed. She'd been kept alive, so had Leah, the older woman, now rocking slowly in the corner, muttering under her breath. Emily tried the lantern's dial. It still had battery power. I called for help on the radio, she told Samantha. I don't know if they got a fix on the location. We have to stay alive until morning. Samantha looked toward the door. He always comes back before sunrise. There's more than one, she whispered. There were 4. Now I think it's just Marcus. Marcus, Emily repeated. The older man. Samantha nodded. He's the one who keeps things running. Daniel was a follower, but Marcus, he's something else. Emily glanced around the room. We need something to fight with. There's a tire iron behind the water bucket, Samantha said. That's all we've got. Emily grabbed it. Heavy, cold. Better than nothing. She turned to Leah. Can you move? Leah didn't respond. Her lips moved, but the words were broken. She hasn't talked in days, Samantha said quietly. She was here the longest. Emily's jaw tightened. We're getting out. Tonight. Samantha stared at her like she wanted to believe it. Footsteps. Outside. A flashlight beam spilled under the door. The doorknob rattled. Emily held up the tire iron and pressed her finger to her lips. The door shook once. Then, silence. Samantha clung to her sleeve. Then, the whisper came. You can't hide forever. Emily didn't move. Her breath felt like shards in her throat. The footsteps retreated, buffed as she knew better than to relax. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time bent in that room. Emily kept her grip on the tire iron, her arm cramping, muscles aching. Then noise. Not from the door, from underneath. A groan, a dragging sound. Boards shifting. She crouched and lifted the edge of the old rug. A trapdoor. What the hell? She murmured. Samantha shook her head. Don't. That's where he keeps. She trailed off. Emily opened it. Anyway, it smelled like bleach and blood. There were shelves, cabinets, metal hooks, chains, and something else, a lockbox. She climbed down, ignoring Samantha's pleas. The lockbox was heavy. She pried it open with the tire iron. Inside phones' IDs, a folder marked distribution list. She opened it. Dozens of profiles, names, faces, GPS logs. Targets, including hers. Son of a bitch, she whispered. Marcus had been planning this long before the swipe. Suddenly, a scream from above. Emily climbed back up to find the door wide open. Samantha was gone, and Marcus was inside. He held the gun. Leah cowered in the corner, shielding her head. I told you, he said, voice low. I always come back before sunrise. Emily didn't think. She swung the tire iron. He blocked it with his arm, grunting as bone cracked. The gun clattered to the floor. They scrambled for it. Emily kicked it under the table. Marcus tackled her. They crashed into the wall. The lantern tipped, casting wild shadows. He punched her hard. Her head slammed against the boards. She gasped, vision swimming. He pressed down on her throat. You were almost impressive, he growled. Her hands flailed, found the lantern. She smashed it into his ear. He howled, stumbling back. She dove for the gun. Fingers closed around it. She fired. He dropped. Silence. Emily single quotes ears rang. Smoke from the lantern coiled into the air. She crawled to Leah, who stared at Marcus's body like it might rise again. It's over, Emily whispered. But it wasn't. Samantha's scream echoed from the trees. Emily ran toward the sound, following it through brush and thorns until she burst into another clearing. Daniel was alive, bleeding, barely standing but alive. And holding Samantha at knife point. His face was a grotesque mask of rage. You should have let me go, he hissed. Emily raised the gun. Let her go. He looked at her. You shot me. You deserved worse. He tightened his grip. Samantha whimpered. Don't do this, Emily said. You don't have to die out here. Daniel laughed. I was already dead the moment I followed Marcus. You think this ends when I'm gone? There are others. There's a whole network. You're just a blip. Maybe, Emily said, stepping closer. But you won't hurt anyone else. He lunged. Emily pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the woods. Daniel fell. The knife still clutched in his hand. Dawn broke over the forest. Police lights flared between the trees. Backup had arrived. Paramedics treated Samantha and Leah. Detectives bagged evidence from the shed and the cabin. Emily sat on the back of an ambulance, a blanket draped over her shoulders. Deputy Keller's body was airlifted out, and Marcus zipped into a black bag, finally silent. A detective approached her. We found something in the lockbox, he said. Encrypted files, thousands of hours of footage, GPS logs, access to something we think is a live streaming site on the dark web. Emily nodded numbly. There were names on a list, he added, including yours. I figured you understand. You were targeted, right? Yes, she whispered. Because I looked like someone who got away. The detective studied her. You still think you're safe? She didn't answer. The morning sun filtered through the canopy like gold dust, but there was no warmth in it. Emily sat quietly on the ambulance bumper, her hands trembling beneath the thermal blanket. The paramedics had stopped asking questions. Once they realized she wouldn't answer them, she didn't feel victorious. She didn't feel anything. Samantha sat a few feet away, silent, wrapped in her own blanket. Leah was being airlifted to a hospital in critical condition, and Daniel and Marcus were both dead. The forest had gone quiet again. Too quiet. A detective reapproached Detective Rhodes. if she remembered his name right. Middle-aged, dark jacket, eyes too tired for the hour. We pulled the metadata from the phones and hard drives you found, he said. Looks like this operation's bigger than we thought. Emily nodded but didn't speak. They weren't just filming and streaming, Rhodes continued. They were part of an international exchange. Names, preferences, even shipping routes. We've already contacted Homeland Security. Emily blinked slowly. You mean like trafficking? Rhodes hesitated, then nodded. That list you found, in the lockbox, dozens of women already marked with red X's. We're running them through missing persons databases now. A hollow ache throbbed in her chest. Did I have an X? He shook his head. Yours had a star. She turned her face away. She didn't want to know what that meant. Later, when they moved her to the hospital for evaluation, she rode in silence. Her eyes stayed glued to the passing trees. She wondered how many more women had screamed into these woods, how many had begged, how many had believed they were just going on a date. In her hospital room, a social worker tried to hand her pamphlets: trauma therapy, legal advocacy, victims' compensation. Emily stared at them until the woman quietly left. She only opened the pamphlet when the lights were off and no one was watching. 3 days passed. Emily remained in the same hospital gown, the same sterile room, until a sharp knock pulled her from the numbness. It was Rhodes again. He placed a folder on her bedside table and pulled up a chair. We've confirmed at least 15 missing women tied to Marcus and Daniel, he said. We believe they operated under a dark web user group called The Orchard. It wasn't just about killing. It was about filming the right kind of kill. Painful, prolonged, personalized. Emily clenched the blanket tighter. They chose their victims carefully. He went on, all single, all with minimal local ties, all with digital footprints easy to erase. And all women, she said flatly. Rhodes nodded. Emily leaned forward. Why me? He opened the folder and turned it toward her. A grainy photo of a woman, same build, similar face, a different name. She escaped from Marcus 6 months ago in Oregon. They called her the one that got away. You match her profile down to your birth year. Emily stared at the photo for a long time. She's dead. We don't know. She disappeared again soon after. Off the grid. Emily exhaled. Smart woman. Rhodes folded his hands. There's one more thing. He handed her a sealed envelope. What is it? She asked. He stood. Proof. They're not all gone. Then he left. Emily opened it after 20 minutes. Inside were 3 printed screenshots. One was her dating app profile pulled offline the night of the date. The second was a message log. One of the messages wasn't from Daniel, it was from someone else, sent hours before her date, saying, she's confirmed. Daniel will take her tonight. Package number 37. The third image was an IP address from the file logs, traced not to the cabin, not to the local area, but to Las Vegas. Another user. Still active. Still watching. 2 months later, Emily had moved. States. New name, new haircut, new phone, no dating apps. She lived in a small apartment above a bookstore and worked night stocking shelves. It wasn't glamorous, but it was safe. Or as safe as she could be. She hadn't spoken to Samantha since the hospital, though she heard the girl was in counseling and staying with extended family. Leah remained in a coma. The FBI had raided 5 properties linked to the Orchard across 3 states, 3 arrests, 1 suicide, and still, at least 6 profiles remained unaccounted for. Sometimes she dreamt of the woods, of glass cracking, of ropes burning into her wrists, of Daniel's face, charming and evil, all at once. But the worst dreams were the ones where she liked him, where she agreed to follow him again. She would wake up sweating, always checking the locks, always sleeping with the bat under her bed. One night, after work, she stopped at a diner for coffee. A man sat 2 booths over, leather jacket, neatly trimmed, beard, smiling politely when their eyes met. For a moment, her breath caught. He was exactly her type, exactly the kind of man she used to match with. He stood to leave, and for a split second, she thought he was going to walk over. Instead, he dropped a 20 on the table and walked out. Emily stared at his empty booth for a long time. Then she left the diner, walking straight to the bridge down the road. She took out her phone and threw it into the river. 3 weeks later, a young woman named Tessa reported a disturbing interaction with a man on a dating app in Vegas. She'd matched with someone named Marcus_42. The profile used a blurred image of Daniel. The man asked her if she liked the outdoors, if she liked being off the grid, if she liked surprises. Authorities traced the profile's IP address, but it had already been rerouted through 6 different countries. The orchard wasn't dead, just quieter, better hidden, and watching again. People tell me I'm paranoid now. I just smile and let them think that. Because it's not paranoia. If someone really is out there, swiping left on your life,